All right, so I've decided I'm going to start vlogging myself, and I'm going to start doing it just for me, almost as a personal diary, because I need to. I've always told myself, I always try to start journals, and I never finish them, or I start them and I never keep up with them. A few times I have has been when I was traveling. But I've decided that I used to write a lot, I used to blog, and I stopped doing that so today we are February, the beginning of February 2017, and not last August in 2016, but I would say the August before that. So it's been almost a year and a half now that I stopped blogging, and when I started blogging, I was really enjoying it. And I wrote about things that I knew, both more informational stuff like nutritional, environmental, and I also eventually, once I started writing, I started just writing about what I was thinking and how I was feeling and what I thought. And I want to start doing that again, except when I type, I have trouble keeping up with my thoughts that are going on in my head. And I type like I speak, so I figured, why not just speak? And this way I get it out loud. And the idea, obviously, I'm filming this. The idea may very well be to share it with everyone as well. And I think I will, because I'm pretty open to sharing. And I think everyone's got a story to tell. Everyone's got things to say. And we often tend to wait. A lot of the time you don't hear people's stories as they're happening. You hear them after the fact. And many people will relate to those stories, but what also happens is that when you only hear a story after the fact, it's sort of easier to distance yourself from that story and feel as if you're not in their place. And so I'd like to share my story as my own, as a way for people to relate. So, because I think if I share my thoughts and my ideas, it could be construed as, me looking for attention, and so for that reason, a part of me holds back from that idea and doesn't want to share just for that reason, because I don't want to be misjudged in that way. But I mean, heck, that's the thing, right? Maybe I am looking for attention. But really, I truly feel that this is a way for me. I'm not very big on emotions. I grew up, I would say I don't remember emotions not being allowed in the house as a child as I grew up. But I was in competitive sports at an early age. And it was always my mentality, even at that point, that you leave your emotions at the door and you don't bring them to the game. And where I got that from, whether it was something, that someone said once, I don't think it was hounded down on me. I don't remember it being hounded down on me, or it's just how I internalized other people's reactions. But that's how I felt, and it's sort of led my life, that at work, at school, that your emotions, that your personal life is separate from everything else. But the older I get, the more I begin to realize that that's not true, for myself at least. And to box different areas of your life in to box them at all and not have them be connected, I don't know, I just don't see it as being very healthy and balanced. And I mean, that's a judgment call, and I don't like to make judgment calls, but I don't know, I guess for me, that's what I'm realizing. And I've done actually a lot of research in a sense into myself in the last couple of years. Or in the past 2 years more so specifically, to really get to know myself better. And I think that's, for me, in order to grow as a person, self-revelation is extremely important. Um, Getting to know myself and coming, always putting my emotions aside for everything else and always considering them to be a weakness and always considering them to sort of be fluff and not important, has really distanced me, obviously, from my emotions. And then that means I don't really know how to be with my emotions, and I don't really know how to express my emotions, and I don't even really know how to recognize what I'm feeling when I'm feeling it, to an extent, of course. So that's what this is all about, really. It's about me speaking out loud to myself, being true with myself, being honest with myself, and, almost sort of like a therapy session, but there's no therapist sitting on the other side. It's just me staring at myself, looking at myself, and getting to be honest with myself and sharing all of my deepest fears and secrets and doubts and just simply saying them out loud and giving them a space to be. Because I think that's important. So if I do share this, for those who want to listen, for those who do listen, I hope you get something out of it, and I hope it, resonates with you or opens up different doors for you as well. So what do I want to talk about? I could probably cut it right there because this already feels really good. So I'm happy about that, because that's why when I started blogging too and I started writing, it was something I started doing for myself. It was something I sort of started doing in order to keep in touch with friends and family while I was out and away and traveling. But then I started enjoying it, and I just started, and when I write, I sort of write for myself. I write for an audience, as if there could be an audience, but I'm writing because it makes me happy, and I'm not forcing myself to write about things that I don't want to write about. I'm writing about what I feel motivated and what I feel inspired to write about and what I feel emotional about in the moment. And so this is going to be the same thing. And actually, I'm really excited about it. So, what to say, what to talk about? Oh, God. I feel like once I start talking, I'm never going to stop. Because it just goes on and on and on and on and on. What do I feel like talking about tonight? I think I might leave it at that for now and come back tomorrow night, because I like that I've started this and I like that I'm doing this. And I think I'm going to start talking from where I stopped writing, basically. And that was I said August 2015. I started blogging, writing when I went to South Korea in 2012, 2013. And I sort of took a break when I got home, and then I started back up in 2014 when I went away to an organic farm. And I worked on an organic farm for a summer. And I continued blogging into 2015. And I stopped blogging when, so I left the farm, and the farm was amazing. The farm, I look back on one of my first posts when I first actually went, and it talked about how I wasn't going to be paid in money. I wasn't going to be paid in riches, in money, but I was going to be paid. I felt like I was going to become rich in experience. And it definitely enriched my soul working on the farm. All through school, when I graduated university, I finally felt like I was free, because I never enjoyed school as a student, because I was bored most of the time, and I was really involved in sports. So I would have much rather rather been spending 8 of my hours outside practicing soccer or skating around and just improving my skate and my play, instead of being at school and being bored in class, kind of thing, and not really, I had definitely a superiority complex, not being interested in the high school or classroom drama. And when I talk of high school, of course, I'm talking about starting at grade 7, because I lived in Quebec. So we had elementary school till grade 6, and high school from grade 7 to grade 11. And you go to Cégep for 2 years, and then you go to university for 3. So I tend to go on tangents, so that's going to happen. So for anyone who's listening, I hope you enjoy them, and if not, skip to another episode. I don't know. But yeah, I was always bored in school, and I look back now and I sort of wish I had gone to private school, or wish I had have pushed myself, or some, that instead of people just giving you a high five and telling you did a good job, asking you to do more. Because I became so good in sports because I was asked to do better. And I had to work to do better. And I also became better because I kept surrounding myself with people who were better than me. When I got to the top, I got bored. And so I wanted to find somewhere else where I wasn't the top. And as much as not being at the top sucks, being at the bottom sucks. Definitely. It can be tough. It can be hard. It can be discouraging. But it makes you a better person when you want to be there, when it's what you want to be doing. But it's funny, I look back on my sports too, and I think about, how much I was really pushing myself and forcing myself because it's what I really wanted, or just because I wanted to be number one. Because I liked being number one, because I liked looking good, and I liked to impress people. I got into ringette because I really, really wanted to be a figure skater. But the classes were too far away and too expensive, so I got slapped on the ice instead, and I ended up, I was good at it, and because I was good at it, I enjoyed it, and so I stayed in that, and I stayed in that for a long time. But when I actually eventually left competitive soccer and ringette, much to many people's dismay, including my father and other parents on the team. And I mention that because I still remember one comment from a parent, and it just, it bothered me. It hurt me. It was a decision that I hadn't come to lightly. It was a decision that I didn't feel was going to be accepted, that my father didn't accept, not at the time. And, I was really stressed in sports because I was really hard on myself all the time, and I pushed myself to be better all the time. So, see, this is what happens. Anyway, it's a good thing. It means I'm getting real. And, or maybe it doesn't, I don't know, but it feels good. I pushed myself really hard, but that's the thing, it was stressful. And I look back and I realize I see that as being a sign that it's not, I wasn't really doing it because I wanted to be doing it. It wasn't really happening out of motivation. It wasn't really happening out of inspiration, I should say, but more so motivation. I was motivated to be really good, but I don't know how inspired I was to be really good. Because what happened was I left at that point to dance, because I always danced in school and in variety shows, and I wanted to take dancing lessons, which I'd always sort of wanted to do, but the 1 or 2 dancing lessons, tap dancing or, really like jazz or ballet when I was in grade 3, they hadn't really felt right, and so I didn't stick with them. But I still love dance, and that's the idea, was to leave competitive sports where I felt like I didn't really have a life outside of sports, because I wasn't like some of the girls on the team who were a bit more balanced, who would also go to parties and also do other things. I was very strict with myself in terms of my sleeping and my eating, and not to an unhealthy point physically, maybe to an unhealthy point mentally that maybe not everyone saw. And, but I was stressed, and because I was just like a lot of other points in my life, a lot of other things I did, jobs, other things that you make yourself do, because when you love doing something, you don't really get stressed. You do, maybe, but it doesn't feel like hard work. And that's, when I look back on it, I did enjoy it. It was stuff that I was choosing to do. It was work that I chose to do. It wasn't, no one ever really, told me I had to do more. I had to do more. But it was definitely sort of a self-imposed work ethic. It was a bit misplaced, definitely, I would say. But yeah, I got on this tangent. It's funny. I was going to talk about how, so I'd made a decision to leave competitive sports, and I had a parent tell me that I was that I'd made a bad decision, that my decision was wrong. And little did they know that I had already made the decision earlier on, a couple of months earlier on, to not listen to my gut, to not do what I wanted to do, but to stick with the team, that maybe my gut and my heart and my intuition was wrong, and that I'll stick with the team. And then I lived through 3 months with that decision, and I wasn't happy with it. So then I finally made the decision to leave. And I had, a parent, someone, instead of being supportive of that decision, sort of threw it in my face a little bit. But I bring this up not because, I was going to say not because it affects me to this day. Obviously it does. When you look back and you think back about these things and you get emotionally upset about them, it's obviously something that you haven't gotten over. But I think because it's translated into bigger things in my life. But I bring it up because, we're going way earlier. let's just start from the beginning. Because I was a kid who played competitive sports, so this definitely applies to people in competitive sports, parents of kids who play competitive sports. That, it's sort of like to remind you of the role model that you are and the influence that you have, especially on young individuals. Because I look back and I see certain things in my life, how much, I have a hard time trusting people, and I have a hard time receiving compliments or believing in compliments that people give me. I know I'm pretty awesome, and everyone should know that they're amazing and awesome. But I just remember something that sticks in my mind vividly is, being around or overhearing conversations about who was going to get cut and who was going to get chosen, or, just overhearing parents speak after practices or on the sidelines, and talking badly about other girls behind their backs. And it just made me feel like, well, what are you saying behind my back? What are you, what kind of critiques are you making behind my back? And, this just goes to show how you can internalize things as a kid, because, a lot of the time parents or people in general, they're just simply making that critiques. And, so this is coming from an individual who can be a bit oversensitive and emotional, and and be open to criticism, but have a hard time swallowing criticism. But I also remember as a kid, just, parents talking badly about the other teams or the other players, or saying things like, I just remember as a child being very ashamed sometimes of how your overly competitive parents reacted in the stands, and things that they said, how they could, about other players and other girls, and it's just, I don't know. I would expect more. I think, I expect more of myself too. I say this knowing that we're not all perfect. I'm not perfect, and we're never going to be perfect. And you can only do your best each and every day. But I think one of the reasons why I'm actually videotaping these things and saying these things is that people do watch them, and people do. The more aware you become, it's advertisements. Every time people pay so much money, Coca-Cola pays a shit ton of money on advertising. Other companies pay a shit ton of money on advertising because they want to sell a product. And they know that they can't just be in your face once. They have to be in your face about 14, 15 times. Because some people learn quickly. Most people learn slowly. Some people learn really slowly. Some people are able to learn from theory. Some people need to learn from trial and error. Some people need to learn by repetition. And that, I think, things need to be in people's faces in order for them to really hear them and to really learn them. And people need to hear people's stories, and people need to see people's emotions for it to really resonate with them and affect them. And so I share this, because I want to bring you up. I want to make you rethink things. I want to make you think. Be conscious of what you're doing. And it's funny, I speak about this. I mean, I had a great, like, I'm saying these things, and it's funny, it just goes to show you how everyone's pain is relative. And, I had a great upbringing as a child. I had great parents. I was surrounded by great teachers. I was surrounded by great adults in general, at school, other friends, on my soccer team. Like, I was surrounded by many, many, many great people, and I had a great upbringing, and I'm very grateful for that. So, but these are the things that I remember, as a kid. And like just in the past 2 years of looking back, and not necessarily looking back, but starting to look at myself and question my beliefs and question my habits and my patterns, and start to see how much of myself, start to see my parents in myself, and start to understand where my behaviors come from, and what, because sometimes what scenarios or what past influences have created such beliefs, and is it really a belief that I need to be holding on to, or is it a belief that I can let go of? And it's never tied to just, or rarely ever tied to just one scenario or one person or one situation. We exist in a society and in a culture, and we share that society and that culture, and these things come back to us, beliefs come back to us over and over again, indirectly. Directly some of the times, but more so indirectly, because there's people don't walk around preaching all the time. Maybe I do. It's a nab at myself. I try not to, because that's another tangent. The whole that if ever I do preach, or if people get that sense from me, because I'm very wary of that, because I guess my father can be that way, or other people can be that way, or have been known in the past to be that way, and I have been known in the past to be that way, and I'm aware of that, but to know it's always coming from a place of a fix-it. I'm a bit of a fix-it personality, trying to improve things, trying to make things better, trying to make people happier. And so I've always been scared, I think, to share my thoughts and my ideas, because I do see things critically, but I never want to voice them, because I don't want to come off as being judgmental about people, because I was more judgmental as a kid, and I'm still judgmental to this day. I would hope less so, in the sense that I think it can, there's almost like a negative connotation to the word judgmental when you use it in a way to devalue people or compare people to each other, and rank them against each other, or not give the same opportunities to some people or box them in, or not give them the opportunity to be themselves, because you've already constructed preconceived notions of who they are. I think in that sense, I'm relatively non-judgmental, but I am critical. So yeah, a lot to say. To say what? I don't know. I started rambling now. It's late. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. But yeah. Yeah, that's why I share these things. Just so that people are aware. Especially, I guess there's a part of me that likes to play the advocate, or likes to stand up for people without a voice. And so, if there are any kids out there in competitive sports who felt the same way I feel, or felt, or any parents out there, just sort of as giving voice to things that do happen. And I think people are aware of them, and people are aware that it's possible that these things happen, but it's to be reminded of it, because we can all use a reminder every now and again.